I'm Heidi Garvin from Grow, Nebraska, and I am our Program Services Coordinator. So if you ever have a question about what Grow, Nebraska does or what we can do for you, I'm the person to contact. And this is our April 3rd Thursday training. We're quite excited to have Rick Wallace from Community Development Resources to speak for us today. And they also happen to be our April sponsor. Well, Rick, I'm going to turn it over to you if you can tell us a little bit about Community Development Resources, and then take it away.
Okay, thank you, Heidi, and hello, everyone that's on here. And I'll quickly just try to go through what CDR is about. I think some of you, or maybe a few of you, may not know about CDR, but we've been a microlender. We've been around actually since May 9th, 1995. We started out doing peer group lending, and then in 2003 we formed our nonprofit and our board, and we became a community development financial institution known as a CDFI, and under the U.S. Treasury Department, which purposefully our mission and our role was to provide access to credit in economically disadvantaged and communities and technical assistance for loans to small businesses and communities that couldn't access traditional financial markets. So long story short, that's our culture, that's what we do, and so we do microloans and we do community business loans, nonprofit loans. We have an Alice Integrity Loan Fund, which is a small loan with no collateral required. And then we also do SBA 504 loans, which are real estate loans that we partner with the bank and the SBA to do. So in a quick nutshell, that's kind of our menu of products, financial products that we have. What I'd like to do is just, I know some of the questions were gearing around, as they all do, how do I grow my business, how do I sustain my business, why do I need a business plan to get financing, and that kind of thing. And I don't want to be redundant because I know some of you are or have heard from other entities, maybe banks or others, who say you need a business plan, you need a business plan, you need a business plan. And that gets a little tiring when you're trying to run a business today and keep the doors open. But I want to talk a little bit about why that is so crucial. First of all, a lot of small businesses, micro businesses, when they start, they're usually one or two persons who start, and they usually starts from kind of a passion for what you're good at doing or what you like to do. And that's good. The downside of that nobody knows really what that is except for yourself. And whether that's providing a service or providing a product, you know it inside and out, but others don't. And so that's why the business plan becomes very essential to being able to articulate exactly what that looks like, how it works, and how you're really going to be able to make money. Particularly when you talk about financing, the real question is your ability to service your debt. Whether it's a small loan or a large loan, the business plan should help you explain that in writing how, particularly in the cash flow projections, how you're going to be able to service that debt. When you're sitting across the desk from a banker or an entity like ourselves, we have a tendency to talk about our passion. And unfortunately, when you start asking for numbers, you have to be able to articulate that passion in a numerical kind of sense. And I want to back up here and just give a disclaimer here, too. I, too, was a small micro business many years ago. And I started with a $500 loan and became a director of a bank. But and that's why I started this program. But that's what we all face. And I truly understand, and that's why I have a passion for what we do here at CDR. Because although it may be a small ask the first time, that doesn't mean that this business doesn't have the potential to become a very viable business, not only employ yourself or families, but even others in your community. So I just want you to know I have some empathy for, saying, well, I'm not asking for that much, and I don't want to make it that complicated, but the reality of it is that the more that you articulate and really define your business, no matter how small, what size, or what it is, the better the probability of your success. I don't want to pass out cliches, but we've all heard the old saying, without a plan, you're just planning to fail. These are some real truisms in any business. I know Heidi and I were talking earlier that CDR is a business. It's a nonprofit business. We too faced a picture not too long ago of, well, are we going to be around? Because we're not a for-profit entity, and it takes money to operate. And so sometimes you have to reinvent yourself and make sure that you understand how you fit in the market. So I just wanted, excuse me for being a little redundant, but I wanted to just kind of set that background there so that we can talk very openly about these questions. But I want to get to the core of the business plan and how this will really help you to be more successful in your ask. First of all, your business answer a lot of questions before they're asked. And that's why you want to have one prepared. You want to make sure that you understand a business plan is a living, breathing document. It never is done. The moment you finish it, it's obsolete because something could happen in your business the next day that's going to impact how you described your marketing or your cost or whatever that it may be. So it's kind of one of those things you always want to keep close to you, take notes on, update. We update ours every year. Just when we think we have everything nailed down, it all changes. So whether it's dealing with a bank or dealing with us, the real model that really works is if you walk in and say, here's my business plan. I see that I'm going to have some needs down the road. I'd like for you to acquaint yourself with the business plan and my business, and then I'd like to sit down and talk with you. What you're doing is giving someone an opportunity to really become educated what your business is, so that you're not sitting down in a 5 or 10 minute crunch, first time introduction, and then making the ask. That is an awful difficult thing to succeed at doing. And so why set yourself up for failure? Prepare yourself, have the business plan ready, lay it out, and make sure you introduce yourself to the loan officer or whoever so that they know a little bit about the person that put this business plan together. Business is always about relationships. We like to say that we do character-based lending, not asset lending. That's what banks look at. That's why they want your financials, your credit report, as we do too. But what they're looking at is no matter what your ask is, if they had to liquidate you tomorrow, can they get their money back? Because they have investors and shareholders who at the end of the year want to go to the stockholders meeting and hear how much money they made. They don't want to hear about the character and how hard a business is working to make it. They just want to hear that they made money. And that really is the distinction between nonprofit community lenders and basically banks. The community lenders, the nonprofit lenders, we have a variable called character that we can weigh into the factor. And what helps us make a determination on that is to be able to read through your business plan and get a grasp of who you are and what you're doing. That, of course, then leads us to ask for further documentation, which then we'll be able to make some decisions with. So particularly, I'm going to hit a couple highlights in the business plan and why they're important. First of all, people say, well, I want to go in business. And the first thing I ask them is, well, what's your structure? Are you a sole proprietor? Are you LLC? Are you a C Corp? Just what kind of business are we talking about here? That makes a big difference in really your liability, your exposure, and your risk. For example, if you have LLC and you have a partner, a lot of people say, well, we're 50-50. Well, folks, nothing is 50-50, not even a marriage. There has to be someone that's going to be the shot caller. So in that operating agreement, there's going to be something called the general manager that's going to say, if we come to an impasse and we can't come together on a decision, I am the manager, the general manager, so then I will make the decision one way or the other. That needs to be resolved. Same with borrowing money. In your LLC, you need a borrowing resolution that says you actually have the authority to borrow. That is a requirement by law. And any borrowing you do today, I just want to be clear because people get confused about this. It doesn't matter what kind of corporation that you are. You will be signing personally for any liabilities against the corporation. And a lot of people think, well, I'll just set up this corporation and it'll have all the risk. Well, not really. Now, as a sole proprietor, most of you know that you can just actually use your Social Security number and get an EIN number and pretty much take off and rolling. Now, that causes lenders to have to look a little closer at why you're doing the sole proprietorship and if you really do have the personal assets to carry it through. So that structure is, I'm trying to explain to you, it leads quickly to really drawing a picture if you're dealing with someone that really knows how to manage and structure their business operations. Okay? The other thing that is very important that will be asked is, what types of professional support teams do you have around you? Do you have an accountant? Do you have an attorney? Do you have a mentor? Do you have a guarantor? Who loves you? You know, who's going to be there for you when things really do get tough? Because it will get tough, and it will rain. It won't be bright, sunny days every day. So those seem like little redundant questions, but they do have a huge impact on the management of the business. So this is why the business plan, the pricing, the structure, and the one that I want to kind of hit here a little bit and talk about is the marketing. And I know for particularly small businesses, and I'll just pick on the entity here and just say like a soap manufacturer. You know, how are you going to really differentiate yourself out there in the marketplace that you have something really unique to provide and it's something that the customers will really want? You know, it's just like friends tell me all the time when I do that, boy, you can really barbecue well, you ought to open a business. Well, I can barbecue well in my backyard, but that doesn't mean I can run an operation with a retail front as I could in my backyard. And so a lot of people take off with that kind of passion, and they get there and they can't figure out why, you know, the place isn't packed. So there's different approaches to why and how you do your marketing. That's one of the biggest things that we see is people say, well, I'm going to build this and people are going to come, or I'm going to make this and they're going to love it and they're going to eat it and da-da-da. And they do this and it doesn't quite hit the projections or the goals that they set, and they get confused and they can't figure out why this isn't happening. And sometimes it's not that your product isn't good. It's not that you're not providing a product that has value and the cost of it isn't correctly, but it's really, are you really saturating the right market, getting the right message to the right people, particularly at the right time, when they're really interested in buying. And sometimes it takes a few years for people to figure that out. Consumers are finicky. Think about ourselves. We're all finicky when we go to look for things and want to buy things. I mean, we know what we want, and we know what we really want to pay for something. So it's the same thing with your products and what you're doing, is that your customer, if you will listen and ask them, they will tell you exactly what it is that they're looking for. And that's why a lot of times when people say, well, I've already got this marketing plan. Really? Well, did you survey some customers before you put this marketing plan together? Did you have, and this is why restaurants always have kind of a test. It's not only to train the staff, but it's also to get feedback from the customers of what maybe they're not doing correctly or what they would like to see changed. I could talk on forever, but I want to hit one more topic, and then I'd kind of like to open it up for questions. Heidi, would that be all right?
That sounds good to me.
Okay. And the final thing I want to say is liability insurance, folks. This is a different world we live in, and you must cover yourself and your business and your interests at all times. It's something that one little incident can literally take you out. And so the risk management of your business is just as viable as the products and services that you provide. And we say to a lot of people, this owner needs to have a insurance policy to cover their liability to this company. Well, why is that? That's too much money. That costs us money. Yeah. Well, you can't afford if something was to happen. So insurance is just that, something you purchase, but you hope you never have to use, and it always gripes you that you got to pay out that money, and nothing ever happens. So, and that's a good thing. But I know there were some specific questions that people had that I'd really like to get into that, more so than our model for lending. So with that, I'd like to open the questions up.
Rich, this is Julie. Can you tell me, can you point us in the direction for example business plans that you think have been written very well or that include all the appropriate information?
Well, Julie, I've seen business plans from 1 page to 100 pages. And this is where you really need to start with a very simple template. And looking here on our website, we haven't loaded this up, and we do need to update our website, folks. I'm sorry. But there is the simplest one that I know of is underscore. And it actually 31 pages. Doesn't mean your business plan has to be 31 plus pages. But it's a good guide because it tells you what needs to go in each section. For example, the first thing it tells you is that you do write the executive summary last. Some people get to the executive summary and they spend months on it and never get into the business plan. How can you write the executive summary if you don't have the plan together? The executive summary is the final piece. So that's a very good template model to go to. The SBA is also loaded up on their site, SBA.gov, Business Development, a very simple plan to use too. I always caution people that don't try to do a lengthy business plan. Be succinct, say what you're trying to say, and make it clear. Don't use emotions and feelings because it's a business plan. That emotion and feeling will come out of your passion in articulating that business plan when you're sitting down with someone like myself or a banker, because they will take that business plan and say, well, now tell me exactly how you're going to market this. And then that's when you can really shine and say, okay, here is what makes me different than my competitors in the marketplace, because here's how I deliver my product. So keep your business plan simple, but that is, Julie, the two places I would start.
Great, thank you. I see on the SBA.gov as you were speaking the template that you were talking about.
Okay.
Thank
good.
you.
Yep. This is not the time to be bashful, folks.
Rick, I did email you some questions from folks who knew they weren't going to be able to be on the call but wanted to have their questions answered.
Sure. Okay.
Let's see.
Well, let me just generically kind of go through some of that.
Perfect.
Because I think there are questions that fit all of us, you know. And one of the big questions is, why isn't the bank willing to work with us? You know, why do we get that turned down right away? Well, the first thing is that a lot of people have a tendency to walk into the bank the day they need the money. They don't know the loan officer, they don't know the culture of the bank, and they really haven't researched who is the loan officer they really need to work with. So the reason why sometimes the bank tells you no right away is because you really haven't taken the time up front to educate them. Because if there's some gaps in your business, in your financial plans or whatever, what you want that banker to tell you is really what it is that you need to do in order for them to give it serious consideration. And banks, folks, don't provide technical assistance. That's not part of their culture. They do asset-based lending. So that's why a lot of small startup businesses get the unwilling to work with them right away. Is that something some of you have experienced? Okay.
I haven't went to take out a loan yet. I'm still in the business plan writing process. But one thing that you mentioned struck a nerve with me was having the right mentors in place. Now, I found out about CDR through the Grow Nebraska website. So I'm wondering, is there also an organization or a community network of other small business members that we should get to know and start interacting with in order to build up a pool of mentors that we can look to understand folks who've had the same struggles or who are doing the same things that we want to do?
Mm-hmm. Now, is this Julie?
Yes.
Okay. Julie, one of the things is that there is a SCORE. I don't know where you're at, Julie, but there's a SCORE chapter in Lincoln and Omaha, and I think out in the Kearney areas, and there's also the NBDCs, Nebraska Business Development Centers. And I'm not saying they would be your mentors, but that would be a good place to start to bounce some of your ideas around with. And I like the SCORE, guys, because SCORE stands for, senior citizens of retired executives, meaning that these are people who have been in business. and they're retired, and they don't have any vested interest in other than helping you develop your business plan.
Okay.
And a lot of people find great value in sitting down with some of those chapter members because they can really tell you what it's like and what the real realities are, and can give you some ideas on how maybe to approach some things. And so that's a good place to start.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hi, this is Don Hume, and I appreciate the good score awards as being a score representative myself. And yes, we're more than happy to help any of the people who are interested in starting a business, or as they're in business and have a problem, we chat with them too about some of their problems as well. So appreciate the good words about SCORE. Thank you.
Well, they're right down the hall from our office, and we don't hesitate whatsoever to refer participants or clients to a SCORE member, particularly if it fits their forte.
Right. Appreciate the good words. Thank you.
Okay, send the check, Don. That's fine. No.
Okay, that's all right. Sure. Bill me and we'll see. Okay.
But no, that's a good question. Is that when you're in business, you do feel like you're on the island out there by yourself. And when I was in business as a small business, I actually started a small construction company doing residential and commercial, and then I found myself out on the interstate building highways. And I was way over my head. But I was in too deep to get out, if you know what I'm saying. And I was like, oh my, I'm in deep trouble. And I actually had a gentleman that actually was a road grader operator who got out of his road grader and came over to me and said, young man, I've been watching you for months. Just work your tail like a little beaver, except your dam is not holding water. And there's some things I might want to suggest to you you might want to consider. And sitting down with that gentleman periodically really kept me on task. And so my point, Julie, to you is there are some business people around you that you may not realize just a candid conversation with them could probably help you tremendously see some things, because the problem is we get scotomas with our businesses. We're like a horse with blinders. And sometimes we just need somebody to lead us to the paddock so we can understand what we need to do to win the race. So do look around you. There are people who have been in business and understand what you're going through and can help you with that.
Wonderful. Thank you. I will definitely reach out.
Yes. I found it profitable in the end. I'll say it that way. Humiliating, but profitable. Well, another question that I had here was basically a big challenge is time, money, and organization. And boy, that's life. That's real. That's how it is. But we have to recognize our skill sets, what we're good at, what we're not good at. And we have to learn to delegate and to trust, to bring in those who can really fulfill the skill sets that we really lack, but we sometimes feel because we own it or we have all the risks that we have to make all the decisions and call all the shots. And we have to micromanage everything that goes on. And I'm here to tell you that is a very, very dangerous model or approach to have in business. And excuse my analogies here, but I like to use myself just to be candid and clear because, you know, life is a continuous learning process. And, you know, I had all this risk in this construction company and all this money going down every day, so I thought the biggest thing for me to do was to get up and start yelling at people and tell them to get it done. And that's what I was paying them to do. So finally one day an employee pulled me aside and he enlightened me and he said, well, you know, that's great. You got all the risks, you're covering all this, but the problem of it is, here, Rick, you can't do all this by yourself. You can't pour all this concrete by yourself. So you need people to help you fulfill your dream. You have to figure out how they really have a buy-in into this business. I don't care if it's just someone that does just minimal labor for you. That labor is very important. Without that being done, you're not going to be able to finish your product or be able to really accomplish your service. So when it comes to time, money, and management, you know, it's easier to pull a string than to push it, folks. And so people have to be careful of their mindsets as they're building the business. Particularly, you know, people are going to make mistakes. And you have to be willing to mitigate how much exposure you can take and make it a, you know, a learning opportunity at that moment. And so when people say, well, you know, I just can't manage all this, and I got all this, and it's overwhelming me, and I just got too much to do, well, step back. And maybe there's someone that you could bring along or someone that could even come and volunteer in your business if you gave them a viable role. But if you just want to bark orders and point fingers and tell people what to do, then it gets awful difficult to do it by yourself. And that's just with anything. There's another question here that I think is very indicative of every business, no matter what size, what they're doing, and that is really, how do I really distinct myself? How do I brand myself? How do I make myself stand out? Now, as I say, I like to use myself as an example, but people say, well, Rick, what makes CDR different than any other nonprofit? And I say this in a humorous, joking way, and I say, well, myself. And they look at me and they go, what? And I say, yeah, because there's nobody out here passionate enough, crazy enough, to care enough to want to help people succeed. Oh. So then there's a kind of a different view about what CDR's mission and purpose is. And I take that literally to heart. And I think if you're on our website, that you could look and see that, you know, we not only have nonprofit loan funds and integrity loan fund, but we're also involved in helping start a credit union, a low-income credit union, to help mitigate some of the payday lenders and the fast check cashing places and the buy here, pay here now, because they really suck $8.2 million a year out of Lincoln, just Lincoln. And so our passion goes beyond just lending and providing technical assistance. Community development is really what we're about, and that means every component within it. And I think for people with their business, They need to be able to distinct themselves. Why are you making this product? Why are you doing this service? And that's what people remember. It's like eating. It's the experience that you really remember. The food tastes good, the service was good, the ambience was good. And if all those components come together, even if it's a little pricey, you don't mind paying for it. And that's a real important key to success about whatever you do. It is, well, why does one place survive and have so much business, but this other place that provides the same product isn't doing so well? Seems like a minor thing. Go ahead.
So that all makes great sense. In your experience, are there certain types of people or people with certain types of characters that when you've seen them and you've heard their business plan, that you automatically think, yeah, this person has it? Is there something about them that automatically makes you think this is going to be a successful entrepreneur?
You bet. That's a very good question. Because there's a spirit of intent, and there's really the passion that oozes out of that person's personality. And you know that no matter what kinds of obstacles are thrown in their ways or rocks that are put in the road, they're going to find a way around that rock in the road. And they're going to succeed. And a lot of times they're going to do it with a smile. Because, you know, one of the things about an entrepreneur, a business owner, that a trait you really got to have is that you can't be afraid of risk and failure. But you got to know what your vision of success looks like so that you can get up and finish the race. And, you know, there's sometimes you throw hurdles out in front of people and say, now, this is going to be difficult for you to get over. How are you going to approach it? And they go away mad and slam the door, don't like you, don't care for you. And I'm like, okay, I can live with that because I'd rather be honest with you up front and tell you that if your customers are coming in your business and you're having a bad day and you're throwing things on the counter and you're mumbling under your breath and you're, in a sense, indirectly taking it out on them, they're probably not going to come back. You know, and I'm thinking of, I'll just tell you about a little local cafe here. It's called Cook's Cafe. It's up here on North 66th Street. And a gentleman named Tommy owned that, sold it a while back. But he was a cook in the Navy, and I remember when he first opened as an old contractor years ago, and it was just a breakfast, quick lunch place. And Tommy was just a gruff old fart. And he mumbled and grumbled all the time in the kitchen. But there's one thing that he took very seriously. He'd always ask his customers when he checked them out at the register if their food was good and they were happy. And they'd say, well, Tommy, the food's just outstanding, but boy, we could just hear you in the back there. We just didn't know if you were going to, you know, make it through the day. And he'd laugh and say, well, guys, that's just old habits I learned in the Navy. And so that became kind of the culture of the place. And I'm telling you, by 7:30 in the morning, if you weren't there, you couldn't get a seat. And he moved this place up here on 66th Street, and now it's kind of a Lincoln institution. But I remember when he started, and everyone said, oh, he'll never make it. And he sold it, and now he's fishing and retired and enjoying life. You know? So to get to your question, yes, your personality, you know, first impressions are long-lasting. We've all heard that. Mm-hmm. Would you want to buy or have someone provide a service to you that really was not taking it seriously or literally was disregarding? You know, the paying customer, you know, you've heard the cliche, the customer is always right. And they feel that when they come in, and if you are not exuding that appreciation, they will go elsewhere, as you would and I would too. So just answer your question, you bet. A smiling face is much more enjoyable to deal with than mumbling and frowning and cursing under their breath.
Makes sense.
You know, it's kind of funny that you mention that because you see some places that you go in today and they really do, you know, say, thank you, we appreciate your business, we hope you have a nice day, and please come back and see us. And we hope you've enjoyed your experience. And I don't know about you all, but those are the kind of places I remember. Any more direct questions? I think those are some good ones. Now, surely I haven't answered all your questions, folks. Heidi, I think we got a bashful group here.
I think we do.
So I will say my email is on our website, and, you know, just feel free to email me a question, you know. I'll be glad to respond, you know. And, you know, there's no question that's a dumb question in business. Every question has a purpose and a meaning to it. So, and sometimes, I'll just say this, sometimes what we need is just an aha moment, and we get that sometimes from really reaching out to others who can see things from a different perspective, because we get stuck. And we just, you know, it's kind of like a scratch on a vinyl, you know, it just keeps scratching, and until you move the needle, folks, it ain't going to change. So asking someone else to give you a different perspective or what they might see, that's really powerful stuff. Very powerful stuff and very helpful.
So I'll ask one more. I hate to ask other questions, but this is Julie again. As I'm working on my business plan and I'm figuring out exactly what to include in it, I feel like a piece of that needs to be about the competition that's in my area, people who will be selling the same things and doing the same things that I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So far, I've been getting my information just from doing like internet searches and stuff like that. But is there another way that I need to go about getting that information, and how deep do I need to go with that? Do I need to try to figure out what, how the size of their business, or just knowing that they're out there, is that sufficient?
Julie, you asked some very good questions, and I like the nature of your questions, because here's my approach. This is my personality. I would go to my competitors. Maybe you identify yourself, maybe you don't. That depends on whether they really care. But everything that you're curious about, you know, what's your price, what's your product, what's your season, yada, 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 whatever. Business people really love to talk about their business and themselves. And so all that internet searching will give you generic information, but if you really want to know, go to your competitor. And if they say, hey, Julie, aren't you that other one that provides that? And you say, yeah, I am. But, you know, I know you're here. I know you provide a good product. I know you have a name out here. And, you know, I just want to know, you know, how that works for you. And a lot of times, you know, your competitor becomes an ally. And that happened to me in my business because I was specializing in certain kind of approaches, and I had a competitor that was doing paving, and so one day we sat down and got to talking about it, and he said, I really don't care to do that, but I just didn't feel like I could just let you go out there, without any challenge. But now I understand more why you do and what you're doing, and so, we're just going to get out of the way. And it became a great ally.
Okay.
So we have to be careful of our belief systems because, it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz. We think there's this great wizard that knows all. We pull the curtain back and it's just a little feeble person that really is very insecure. So you can't be afraid of who you are. You know your business, you know your product, you know what you can do. You don't have to be arrogant and bodacious and braggart about it, but you could say, hey, this is what I do, you know that, and this is what I do well, and you know that, but, I'm really impressed by what you do. You're able to do something here that we haven't been able to. So.
Okay.
Rick, I finally figured out how to get my mute off. This is Carrie.
Okay, Carrie.
Because I like to talk.
Yeah.
So I've had to have it on mute because I've been pumping my fist in the air, and I think there were a few amens going on during your speech. So I just wanted to mention that that I met this guy 4 years ago, and he put my business plan in a drawer. And he was not as passionate about my business as I was, and I left a little uncomfortable. But he did tell me one thing that stuck with me more than anything else, and that was that I needed to read E-Myth. And I think in my last 4 years of business that I have listened to that, who knows how many times, but probably at least an hour a day, because that book I have it on Audible on my phone and on my iPad, and that thing has inspired me and encouraged me on days when all I could do was cry, and it has been probably the best mentor that I could have.
What is that called again?
E-Myth.
E-Myth.
And there's two. E-Myth Revisited, you should start there, and then E-Myth Mastery, and then it'll give you, and you'll be able to walk right through your business plan.
Nice, thank you.
Yes.
Terry, thank you for speaking up about that, and it's always fun to run into you and dialogue with you because, I'll just say this, Terry, in full disclosure, and I've said this to you before, I think that having that third party to go to and read and realize that there was someone else that had been going through the same thing you were was a big affirmation to you.
Definitely.
And that's, and I'll just kind of say this in kind of closing, and Terry, thank you for setting this tone.
Thanks for putting my business plan in your drawer.
It wasn't ready, Tim, but anyway. Please affirm yourself every day. And I don't mean stand there and be braggadocious or whatever. Don't be serendipity about it. Be very genuine that, I'm a good person that's trying to do good in the world by providing a good product and service, and I just want the strength and the enlightenment to be able to accomplish that. And start your day out with that, because if you start your day out with a negative, you're going to end up with a negative. And sometimes we're our own best cheerleaders and our own best coaches, because like Terry said, there's some days you just want to go sit in the corner and cry and just give up. And so don't forget to affirm yourself that you're doing what you're doing for a reason, because you have a passion for it, not because you just think you're just smarter than everybody else in the world. No, you have a sincere reason why you're doing what you're doing. So, and there are days I want to curse, but most days I really do feel blessed. And we have a lot to be thankful for every day, and sometimes we forget that. thinking that, whoa, my woes are bigger than anything else in the world. We could have a lot worse. Business plans are no fun to write, but by God, if you start to get it on track, and you can really have fun with it and enjoy it. And I thought I'd never say that in my lifetime, but I really do. It's grudgery. I'm not going to kid you, but I really do look forward to updating our business plan because it helps me reflect back, where it really started from. And here's where we're at. So, anyway.
Are there any other questions?
Not from you, Julie, but I just have to say this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for your insight and your thoughts and the direction that you've given. This has been absolutely amazing. I'm so glad I called in.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick.
No, it's my pleasure, and I'm very humbled to be able to just share, folks, to be honest. And like I said, at any time, send an email, give a phone call. It is what it is, and I just tell it like it is. So, that's all I can do.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up here, folks. It is almost 1 o'clock. Just a couple of quick reminders. We do have our next third Thursday training scheduled, so if you're interested in learning about how to run a business event and keep it green, you can go on grownebraska.org and sign up for that training now. If you're looking to learn more about marketing and technology for your business, we do have our Market Tech Conference coming up in Kearney next week on April 22nd. You can also register for that on grownebraska.org. And real quick before we go, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and thank you so much, Rick, for this great talk.
Thank you for letting us be part of it. Okay. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.